Howdy. I cannot hear you.
How's that?
That is amazing.
Great, graceful return, right?
Yeah,
After
that's why
how
you have
long?
to try it out before you go live.
Yeah, well, oopsie doops.
You can be like me and leave the starting soon banner up like the entire stream.
Sure, why not?
Well, we're
It's
out of the
been a week.
algorithm, so people probably don't know we're live. If you find us, share, please.
Yeah, it looked like we had 2 viewers there for a second, but now we're back down to 1, but that's okay. I haven't been live in a while. Maybe I should go to this and see. Is that formatted better or is the other one formatted better? I can never really tell.
It really depends on what you're showing too, I think. But this side by side's fine.
Okay. Should we go back to
I
that?
love the orange slices.
Thank you. So yeah, that was kind of the theme that I was going with is this. So I stumbled across this. I told Spackle, I messaged her a little bit. I think I sent you a wall of text. I was just like, oh my gosh, I uncovered.
It took me a little bit to get through it because it was like I was like late at night and I'm like still under the weather. So I was like, oh, so I was like, oh, cool.
Yes, Spackle is recovering from
A
a
kidney
major scare.
stone, a kidney stone that caused septic shock, and I did not have a very good night. I almost died. It was scary. And I was in the hospital for 4 days, but I'm out and alive and kicking, and I have a surgery on the 13th coming up. So yes.
We're glad that you are alive and well.
Yeah, and I do not recommend septic shock, but I did lose 12 pounds in a week. That's pretty amazing.
Oh well, yeah. I don't think that's a good way to do it. I feel
Probably
like
not.
that's probably not the best way to go about it. But yeah, I sent you this message of what I was going through while you were going through that. Also, just a side note, because this is going to seem really like super like unsympathetic while my friend was like going through like septic shock. She was updating me on this, but every time she sent me an update, it was like when they were at a place where it was like, okay, like we're stable here. So from my perspective, it was always like, oh, okay, like that was serious, but they're on top of it. So there was never like a time where I was like, oh, I was worried, but I like meanwhile, you were, like, going through damn near dying, and,
Well, I didn't text you from ICU, so you wouldn't have known about that part.
right, yeah, so
I was like, I'm in the hospital. It's kind of serious, but it's under control now.
right, and I'm at this point, I'm assuming because it's, like, been hours, right, and I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm sure she's, like, back at the house, and she's, like, resting." Meanwhile, you're almost dying, you're in the ICU, and I stumble across this first, it was a YouTube video. Oh, I should have found the YouTube video so that I can link it. I'll put it in the description after we're done. But it was this guy who's a preacher who was talking about that, like, AA specifically. He's like, Alcoholics Anonymous is a cult. And I'm like, this is something that I've said a million times. I really do talk about like the 12 steps as a whole. I was in Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous. And it was just like so refreshing to like finally hear somebody talking about this because when I first got out of it and I was like, do people not realize this? And everybody basically like told me to shut the fuck up. And they're like, they're helping people. Like stop talking about it. We don't want to hear it. And that was kind of frustrating. And I think that now I've kind of gotten to a place where I don't care what they say. Like I'm gonna fucking talk about it anyway. But this guy in his video mentioned just like really briefly, he's like, in the orange papers, like look it up. I was like, what's the orange papers? Because you know me, Spackles. I'm like,
What
if,
is the orange papers? This sounds interesting.
if you give me some weird offhanded reference that I don't know what you're talking about, I'm gonna fucking look that shit up and I'm gonna figure it out. And I stumbled across this link that is already in the description. And it's this guy who calls himself, well, here, I actually made a slide about this. Here, we'll add this. So This guy online refers to himself only as Orange, and I don't even know that it's a guy. It just said themselves. They refer to themselves as Orange. This page looks like it was made in like the 90s or like the early aughts. Like it's one of those where it's like it hurts a little bit to read it. I printed most of the section that we're going to talk about today. I went ahead and printed it out, and it's like 16 pages. So I did like fronts and backs and half sheets. It's long, but everything it mainly focuses on AA, but like he also breaks down, or they also break down also like when they're talking about like NA, and there's are specific things as well that like sort of reinforce basically some of the points that he's getting at. But I think that this person, my assumption is that this person was in AA, so that is their personal experience is with AA. Obviously, I don't know Orange personally. It seems like they have been updating it like all the way up to like 2023. So,
So they've been doing it for a while.
a long time. Yeah. And a lot of the references go back to the aughts. Like I think that it originally started in the aughts. It just hasn't been like reformatted. It's
Yeah,
been
some
updated.
of the references are really old. Like I saw like the 90s, and some of them are more current.
Yeah. And this person just really kept really meticulous notes. And the thing that I really appreciate about it is that like everything is hyperlinked, and all the sources are cited, and like it brings you back to like, hey, this is, this refers back to this, and this, and you can like click around on it, and you don't have to like go searching and scrolling through the thing. He does a really good job of organizing it, or they do a really good job of organizing it. And yeah, I do encourage you to check it out. Like I said, my eyes hurt from looking at it, so I needed to do a printout of it. But the part that we're going to talk about today is a good. I put 12 pages there. It's actually 16.
Oh, it's 16? Holy cow.
Yeah, it's 16 pages when I printed it out. And I think I did cut off like the end of the bibliography was like another like half a page, but it was like that. We're not printing that. We're not printing all of it, but just the one.
Yeah, we could skip the bibliography right now.
Well,
A little
and a
much.
lot of it, I need to go into my storage and like grab. I think I have still a lot of these books that he's citing. Also, the AA Big Book. One of the things about when you have alcoholics organizing things is that sometimes they forget to like update things and keep track of things like copyright paperwork. And there's a couple versions of the Big Book that are available for free online because they did not keep their copyright up to date.
Wait, you have to pay for it? I didn't realize you had to pay for it.
Well, because he's dead. The guy who wrote it is dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in order for his family to like keep it, they have to like I don't think that they have to pay for it. I think they just have to do paperwork.
Or maybe it's because it's just the cost of printing and shit.
Well, they want people to buy print books. So if you ever go to like AA World Services and stuff, they won't tell you about it being online for free. They want you to buy it because they're still publishing new ones. I had a special edition. Mine
I
was.
can't remember how much it is to get those.
Don't buy it like new. If you're gonna buy it used. They're very expensive. $30-$40 probably.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought that'd be more around 10 because you want to reach the most people.
It's a lot of pages though. Like it's hefty. Now I had like hardback versions of them too. There are softback versions. I know like the JFT, you can't even get like the JFT for like even $10 like used.
So what we're saying is if you want it, print it out online and get a binder.
Yeah. Yeah. If you want to, there are like so many other ways. If you are seriously, if you are dealing with addiction, alcoholism, whatever, like if you're dealing with addiction or alcoholism, like there are so many other things that you can do. There are so many other ways. There are links down in the description already. If AA or NA is the thing that you feel like is right for you and you want to do it, but be aware. That's all I'm saying. Be aware. Because, yeah, we'll get into it, but it's a very predatory organization.
You can get really bad advice from sponsors. That's one thing that we talked about. And my family member who died of alcoholism had a sponsor that had absolutely stupid advice. So I'm just saying, like, it's
They are
not
not
perfect.
medical professionals. There is nothing that sets a sponsor apart from like any other person other than they at some point had a drinking problem, and they usually right now have at least 12 months of sobriety. But in some chapters that's not even required. In most chapters it is like 12 months of sobriety is required. But they could be somebody who spent 20 years drinking and just managed to white knuckle it for 12 months, and then now they're taking on sponsors. Yeah, not necessarily somebody who's qualified.
And sometimes they're shorter people, and someone's like, I've been sober for like 6 months. I'm going to go for it and lead a group. And it's like, whoa.
And Jared asks, are these books people who are court mandated to attend are required to spend their own money on? So here's the thing is we are not required to. Yes, exactly. Baby sober. We are not required to spend your money on them. You are highly, highly, heavily, heavily encouraged. You're basically told that if you don't have a copy of it, that you're not taking it seriously, you're not working the steps. How can you work the steps if you don't have a copy of not only the big book, but like the workbook? There's like so many books. There's the ODAT for specifically alcoholics. There's the JFT for Narcotics Anonymous. And I think that most of the separate chapters also have like their own versions of this as well. Now I personally, and I thought that I made, let me see. I thought that I made a slide that had like my own personal timeline on it, but I think that did not make it into there. But I was court mandated to attend Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'll give you just a little bit of background on my own personal history with the organization. It really is one overall organization, but it is broken down into Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, and so on and so forth. So I was a little bit of a wild teen. I went through some stuff that was a little bit traumatic, and I did some drugs and shit, and I got arrested when I was in college I had some drugs, just weed, in my dorm room, and
Weed. Oh my God.
yeah, it was a lot of weed. To be fair, it was a large amount of weed. And my suite mate, her friend, basically had come over and smelled it, and then my suite mate said, "Oh, like yeah, she's got weed over there," and they had called the police and routed me out to the police. Not to say that like I'm not like blaming them. Like I had weed in my dorm room, is why I got arrested. That's why, because I had weed in my dorm room, and a lot of it. But I sat in jail for like a week. And when you're in jail for like a week and the weather is bad, they don't let you out for rec. All you get is basically one room for, I was there for 6 days straight. And the only time that I got out was for AA and NA, like literally out of that room. And so they let me go. They said because I had a drug charge that I was like qualified to be able to be let to go to the AA and NA meetings. And that was, they basically first told me like in these meetings, like, if you got arrested with a drug charge, you're an alcoholic. Like that was, it was just like a 1-for-1. Like, oh, okay. If you're in this situation, you're either an alcoholic or an addict. And it wasn't even necessarily like treated as something that like, oh, you should like learn and see if you are. It was just like basically taken for granted. Now, at that time, I ended up basically my uncle struck a deal with the prosecuting attorney, and I was able to get bonded out of jail to go into a treatment facility. And I went into an inpatient treatment facility. I was there for a month. While I was there, I ended up, they like basically, they made me break up with my boyfriend. That was
Wait. Who made you break up with the boyfriend?
the treatment facility basically told me when I was like about 3 weeks in, that if I didn't break up with them, that they were just going to keep me longer. It was like it was a treatment facility with like an
They're allowed
inmate.
to do that? Like, are they going to just say, get a divorce if you're married?
Um, I
Get a
was in the,
divorce or
I
we'll
was,
keep you.
yeah. So I was in there with I'm trying to think of like how to like keep this very vague, with a couple that was a married couple that also both of them decided to go in for treatment and had both voluntarily entered the program. And they were basically encouraged to not stay together as a couple. That they were encouraged
Because they're
to,
both addicts, or
yeah.
were they addicts?
The one probably for sure was. The other one, I don't know. I think maybe was encouraged by their spouse and was a user, but I don't necessarily think that like that's a bad reason to go into treatment. Say like, hey, like I've been using drugs for like the past, year now. I would like to go into treatment, and my spouse is also going, like that's
Right.
I don't necessarily disagree with that, but that was something that like we were absolutely encouraged basically to leave our partner, because if we had gotten into that situation with said partner, then it meant that like that partner was bad for us and was a bad influence on us.
Interesting. Huh.
Yeah.
So
So
was the person you with, were, in your opinion, were they also addicted, or were they just using and they kind of stopped, or
yeah, so they also like I wouldn't say that they were like using or addicted. I would say that they used.
yeah.
That was, but it wasn't. I Looking back on it, I realized that I probably was not an addict. It was just like that was what they told me, because I had been arrested. There was no other, that must be why, is basically like the way that it was
Yeah.
treated. Is
And as you
is
know, and I know, not all drugs are built the same. Like
Right.
like there are some that are far more addictive than others.
Yeah. Exactly. But it was not treated that way. Again, it was like, well, like, and I'm sitting there like my first week going like, okay, but like all I did was like smoke some pot. Like I got like arrested with some pot in my dorm room. But like they're like, no, you're an addict. That means you're an addict. And that means that you have an opportunity as somebody who's not even 21 years old. I was not even 21 years old. I was literally a teenager when this happened. You have this opportunity as a teenager to recognize now and go through your step one now. And you have your whole life ahead of you as an addict to not use and
Forever, for your entire life, addict.
forever. The pickle
Just
metaphor.
like Ray Comfort. I'm just going to point this out. This is like Ray Comfort. Ray Comfort's an apologist. He goes up to people on the boardwalk and he says, have you ever told a lie? And I go, yeah, I told a lie. And he goes, well, then you're a liar. Have you ever looked at somebody for lust? Well, then you're a whoremonger or an adulterer, and he will label you that. And that's who you are for the rest of
Yeah,
your life. Yeah. And that's what it reminds me of.
you're a pickle. That's the metaphor that we use. You're a pickle.
Yeah. Explain the pickle and the cucumbers.
Okay, so there are people who drink, and those people are cucumbers. But then there are alcoholics, and those alcoholics, they're pickles. And a pickle can become a cucumber, but a cucumber can become a pickle, but a pickle can never become a cucumber again. And it's like this metaphor that's like, oh, like once you have like gone gone to the dark side and have become an alcoholic, then you will forever be deemed an alcoholic. And that there's this concept of like, oh, well, you can be in recovery, but you're never fully recovered. And I fucking hate it. Fucking hate it. Aunt Jared, sorry, I missed a couple of these comments. It said, I attended a couple of Codependence Anonymous meetings. They also have a couple of expensive books. I hated the concept because being codependent, we feel compelled to help others, but they don't want you to, because they're there to stop doing that. So it wasn't helpful at all. You just shared and people said, thanks for sharing, and no advice was given. 0. I think that maybe no advice given might be better than like they tried to do no advice, but like people were always just fucking telling you what to do. They were just like, "Oh, here's what you should do." And it wasn't even like, "Oh, here's my advice." It was like, "This is what you should do." And yeah, it was not great. It was fucking not great. Also, I think that what did I put this in my notes, but I didn't. Oh, okay. This is not important. Sorry. I saw where I got my timeline, but like I don't have time to like bring it in, so whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
So I never went to AA because I've never really like I mean the best you got on me is weed, like it's though I am on Norco right now. Oh my God. because I have a stent in my kidney, but generally I not much of a partaker. I'll get like social drinking here and there, but I had a family member who died of alcoholism. It was really traumatic, very traumatic. And I watched time and time again his sponsor being a fucking idiot and his roommate who was also an AA being a fucking idiot and with fucking stupid advice. And I was kind of horrified. And then I did 2 Al-Anons and I was like, no, no, no. I'd much rather just talk to my therapist. This is nutso. Because I don't trust any of these people.
Yeah. That's Al-Anon is also one of those where I just don't. Andrew says that a 12-step program for codependency is not a useful model. Yeah, yeah. But they think that it like works for everything. And that's the thing also is like with Al-Anon is I understand like maybe a program that's like, hey, you're being a little bit of an enabler. Let's teach you how to like roll some of that back and like stop enabling this addict. But instead, it's treated the exact same way with like basically just a rewording of the exact same steps. And then your being associated with an alcoholic is treated then as a disease. And I remember that from being in AA and NA, that it was weird that it was like they wanted me to like recruit my family members, but like if my family members weren't alcoholics or addicts, they also wanted me to recruit my family members to like Al-Anon. And they were like, oh, you got to get your family to like go to these meetings, these Al-Anon meetings. And then they would want me to go to the Al-Anon meetings with them because they wanted me to like recognize that like my grandfather who died before I was even born was an alcoholic. And like that's what led to me being an
It's part
addict.
of your family system.
It's part of my family system. And yeah, is a whole thing. And also, so to be clear, I was like kind of brought into Narcotics Anonymous originally, and then with the whole my uncle made a deal with the prosecuting attorney and I did drug court for 12 months and I was required to attend either AA or NA meetings. At that time, originally my home group had been this NA home group but it was like 30 minutes away and there was like some drama going on there. And so I actually started attending this other home group that was like specifically for people who worked. So it like started at like 7 o'clock and it finished at 8 o'clock. And it was one of those where it wasn't necessarily where people stuck around. And I think that I missed a lot of that like when I hear people's stories of shit that happened and like being like forced to like stick around for like hours after a meeting and shit like that. Luckily, I missed a lot of that. There was some of that with the other home group, but again, I lived like half an hour or more away, so it was always like I need to fucking get out of here. So I missed a lot of that.
Bye. Irish goodbye.
Exactly. I was always able to do that. But yes, yes, Maya, I'm streaming.
I'm
You're
streaming
new
too.
me, right?
I
New year,
nearly
new.
died last week, Maya. You'll have to see the first part of the stream.
Yeah, exactly, Jared. It's a generational curse, even though like I wasn't aware of it existing ever before. But yeah, so I did kind of end up in both. I initially had an NA sponsor and I didn't really fire them. I just like kind of separated from that group. And it was very much discouraged that I get a different sponsor. It was very much like encouraged that I needed to like go link up with my previous sponsor in
Oh,
any
hell
type
no.
of NA meetings, which is like, yeah, it's like, fuck no.
Oh,
Um,
hell no. No, I fired a psychologist once for saying, um, first of all, I was going through it, and he said, he comes in, and first of all, he's a dude, and I don't seem to do good with guys, psychologists for some reason. But second, he's like, you know, you know what, the thing with the depression is it's all in your head. It was the most like, oh, I don't know, like not devaluing. What's the word I'm looking for? You have to
dismissive.
dismissive. Thank you. That's the word I'm looking for. And I was like, yeah, and I fired him. Like I was like, I'm gonna find someone else. And the next person was great. It was just this guy. I was like, this guy's not gonna work for me.
You know what you should do if you are having an asthma attack?
Use
Breathe.
your inhaler.
You should breathe.
Oh
Like
yes.
that's
Oh yeah. That's the
you get
thing.
what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like on par
Oh
with
yeah.
that time of your life. It's like, what the fuck? Like, are you serious? Yeah, like that's so I now with AA, it was not as much push to like reconnect with my previous sponsor. There still even was some of that. It was like, well, you already have like a 12-step sponsor. You should maybe go find another sponsor. And I kind of had to like find a sponsor that was okay with me being like being on my second sponsor, which was like a whole separate level that you're like shamed for, right? This is a whole shaming ritual. Like the whole first part of it is like very much a shaming ritual. Um, that sponsor
Shame.
did not count my previous steps that I had like previously worked with my previous sponsor. She's like, you have to start back at step one with me. It's like a whole thing. But yeah, yeah, no
We
shit.
need
Why do you think it's called a mental illness? Exactly. That's why it's all in your head.
surprise.
Surprise, surprise. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it now again, it was like a culty thing, but like I didn't necessarily even like recognize that it was at that time. Like that's kind of like the thing about it is like looking back, there were so many things where it's like, oh yeah, like that was really kind of fucked up. And so again, I was in the inpatient treatment, and then after 4 weeks they let me out of inpatient treatment because I broke up with my partner. because because that's the other thing is they're like, oh well, you're
Did
not.
you want to break up with your partner?
I mean, like in retrospect, it probably wasn't like a bad thing, but no, at the time I didn't. And I don't like for me, it wasn't necessarily a bad thing. And I can kind of look back on it and laugh and say, like, that was dumb. But for other people, like if they're like in a healthy relationship or like that's a healthy, supportive relationship and like their partner is like willing to like stop using and like keep, be a safe space for them, like you're kind of cutting these people short. You're removing like a bit of support that would be there otherwise, Like I think that's fucking wrong.
Yeah, I think that's a big, huge depends, and it sounds like they're doing like a big blanket answer for that.
It's very much a blanket, like, you're not allowed to have a partner. So this is this is what we're taught is, nothing that depends on you for a year. So, like, no partner, no pet, nothing. After a year, you can get a plant.
What if you already have a pet? You have to give them up to the Humane Society?
That one was a little bit of a gray area, that it was like, if you have a pet, like, whatever, but, like, you don't get more pets, you don't like, that sort of thing. You don't take on more responsibility with the pet.
By the way, pets are proven to increase your mental health if you like animals,
Yeah.
like and also de-stress you. So that in itself, I don't agree with unless you are completely strung out and irresponsible. Some people are, and they let their pets die or something awful. But yeah, that I always thought that rule was really weird.
Yeah. Well, and it is a big, huge depends. It is a depends the size of that Donald wears, absolutely. And a lot of it is contradictory. You'll find that it's a little bit like, wait, what? But you said in this, like it was like you drilled that into us, but like what? That
I'm giving
doesn't.
up my kid. I'm giving up my kid. Who wants it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, pretty much most people who like end up in the situation are usually like they don't have their kids. Right? Because when they're like showing up to AA and NA, it's because like they've been court ordered there because like the judge already took away their kids or the judge you get what I'm saying?
Right.
So yeah, it's frustrating. So yeah, for while I was on probation, and I think the same is true for a lot of people who are on parole as well, which, like, parole can be, like, literally decades people are on parole for. I was required twice a week to go to 12-step meetings, even, like, when I wasn't in inpatient treatment. Now I moved after that, I immediately moved to a halfway house, which was also, like, a thing that was, like, super fucking encouraged. Like, I had places where I could move in the city that I lived in that would have been sober places that wouldn't have been necessarily, because they say, "Oh, like, same people, places, and things." Like, you have to be, like, all, like, new people, places, and things, basically. And I was almost I was even discouraged from moving back to the city that I was in. At the time that I got arrested, I was pursuing a degree. I was in a dorm room. I was absolutely discouraged from pursuing any type of, like, higher education whatsoever.
That's
And
it. No college for you. You're an addict.
you're an addict, get that shit under control. You need to wait at least a year or 2 before you even consider doing any of that shit. And, you should probably move to, like, a halfway house, like a sober living situation. I did that. I'm also, like, really autistic and I have ADHD. So I ended up actually, like, getting kicked out of the halfway house for, like, weird shit that was like they said that I was breaking the rules, but, like, I wasn't. And then it was like they were like, "Oh, well, we don't believe that you're working enough hours for to have qualified for, like, you have to be working X amount of hours." And I was like, "Let me get out my paycheck stubs and show you that I was clocked in for that." And they're like, "We don't wanna see it." And there was, like, other stuff that they, like, kept citing, like, that was just, like that, like, I was socially awkward, and they just didn't want to say that. Like, nobody stopped to be like, "Hey, it's weird when you do XYZ. That makes us uncomfortable." Like, they couldn't, like, be adults and fucking talk to me about shit. Instead, they, like, started having fucking meetings about me behind my back and, like, decided, like, this whole yeah. So, like, they were basically a bunch of fucking teenagers.
That's it.
And
Everybody needs a puppet, and they need to make the puppet talk to all the other puppet, like those things, like Cookie Monster. Would it kill you to put the dishes in the washing machine?
But but something like that would fucking help. And, like, we had
Yeah.
weekly meetings where we were supposed to, like, air our grievances, and I noticed that, like, shit was, like, getting awkward, but I was just like, "Okay, like, whatever." But, like, a lot of times they were, like, on my days when was, like, a really big work day anyway, so I was taking off work to, like, be at, like, the house meetings, so, like, what the fuck ever. Now, at the one job that I had so also, this is so fucking stupid because of, like, the way that they fucking harassed me, and I was, like, always had to be at these stupid meetings and shit. I ended up, like, kinda losing the one job and, like, I didn't really I just stopped. I switched to a different job because of, like, all the meetings and shit. And I, like, met this guy at the job who was, like, very flirtatious with me, who turned out to be an alcoholic. Now, mind you, this is, like, 3 months out of fucking rehab, right? But all of a sudden, I was very much encouraged to pursue a relationship with this guy to get him to come to the meeting. Even though, like, literally 3 months before, I think
Wait,
it was less
they're
than
t-
6 months before that, they told me to break up and move on.
wait, encouraging you to evangelize state.
Yes,
That's weird.
uh, that's very much how the group is. Like, that's
Evangelating. You guys have to bear
evangelizing.
with me. I'm still sick, so I'm gonna make some weird gaffes, like putting the
She's
dishes in the
on
washing
drugs.
machine. I am. I am on narco. That's
She's on
true,
drugs.
but I'm not an addict yet. Oh.
You're not
Side
pickled
note.
yet.
No. Side note. I only take 2 a day. Side note. Uh, they gave me Narcan when they gave me Norco, and yeah, because I'm getting stabbed in my kidney at every second, and when it wears off, I'm like murder time. Like I'm like, oh, I'm dying. But right now I'm fine. But I'm gonna have some gaffes, and I do apologize.
That's okay. That's the audience might start requesting. No, just kidding.
More gaffes.
But yeah, that was so I that's kind of how I got involved with AA and NA. And like after a while, they started like having me do different, tasks and stuff throughout the different groups. I did end up like I switched back to the previous home group once there was a group of people in that had like left the group, and there was just like a lot of drama. So I did end up like switching home groups and stuff like that. But um yeah, there was just a lot of drama and a lot of shit. And then after about like 4 years, now after, because you asked me this the other day, Spackle, how long did I have to go? I had to go for 14 months. It was initially like 14 months that I was required to go for drug court, but I like kept with it for 4 years. I like looked at some of my shit recently. It was at least 4 years, which is kind of wild. I
Did you
never got.
feel like you got the support you needed at the time, or what was it that encouraged you to stay?
I think the thing that encouraged me to stay was like they kept fucking giving me responsibilities. Like I was
Oh,
GSR of the group. Like I can't fucking leave when you're like making me like the, you know.
oh, okay. Yeah, I can see that.
And that's another thing too, is like GSR is like group service representative. It's like it feels like an honor to do that. But also they like fucking switch it around like every couple months. So it's not like it's always one person who has it. Like there's several different like roles throughout the group, and then they'll like rotate them. So it seems like it's more than it is. That it seems like, oh, like I was like group secretary for a while. I was GSR. I was, like I did these different things through the group. Um, but that really was like a rotating thing. Now, I did write for, we had like a publication that was like our area had like a written like newsletter type publication. And I wrote and edited for that. And that was something that I found fulfilling. I will say that. But I don't look back on like the stuff that I wrote for that and go, "Oh yeah, that was good writing. That was good practice for," like it's not, but at the time it felt fulfilling. And there is a certain aspect to that. There's also, it feels when you're in it, it feels like, "Oh, I have all of these people who are going through this shit with me. I have all of this support." It's not real support though. It's not. It's all of these people who are drug addicts and alcoholics, and are admittedly drug addicts and alcoholics, and then will do stupid fucking shit and then be like, "Oh, I'm an addict." As if like going to confession just fucking wipes it all clean. And it's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm an addict." And you'll see in the steps that it's like, okay, you're supposed to like make amends and shit. But like there's also like this part of it where it's like you do your best to make amends. And if they don't like accept that, then you just move on. And people will take that to be like, "Oh, well, like I said, I'm sorry, I'm an addict." And like you didn't take that as like a fix it all. So that means it's on you.
Yeah, I don't, yeah, I find that stuff frustrating too. And one of the things that, I really struggle with this whole stuff is how, especially Al-Anon does not actually work on healing families, not as much as you would imagine. Like they're more like placing equal blame on families. And you have an addict because of you. Like,
They preach
and
the 12 steps like they are just fucking magic. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
yeah, the magic 12 steps. But like it's one of those things where I listen to addicts on some other streams and stuff like that, the way they talk, and they almost have like a little club. And it's a little frustrating to hear because as much as you love the addicts that, have hurt you in your life, the damage that they've done is like irreparable. Some of it, like the damage to my mother is irreparable. And I look at it and go, there's no way to fix that. And I kind of get frustrated at how some of them are like, you must forgive me because I'm an addict. And it's like, again, I loved the addicts in my life, and working on forgiveness is a thing, but at the same time, it is really interesting to watch the flippancy, I would say, because it doesn't match what they shame you to death, like in the beginning of it, and then they
Oh,
flip it to you must you know it's like almost like a
shame
and
and
then
then
it
guilt.
turns shame and guilt, and then it turns into easy grace, like Christianity, shame and guilt, and then easy grace.
Kind of, kind of. So these are the 12 steps, the AA specifically 12 steps. Now you will find that like each of the groups has a little bit of a different um these are just some of the more well-known groups, and they'll have slightly different wordings, right? But if you look at this, again, there's Codependence Anonymous is on there, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Al-Anon, Gamblers Anonymous, Overeaters, Emotions Anonymous, people who have or just in recovery from an emotional illness, Racists Anonymous, right? Does this seem like all of these people, it's just one magic pill, Sexaholics Anonymous, all of these people can be fixed by the same program? You're telling me all, and that's like, it's the magic pill, the magic snake oil, right? But no, it doesn't actually work. We'll get to that. But this is the 12 steps. So everybody does them again a little bit differently. I can explain a little bit as like how my group did it, but the the thing is when you get to basically like steps 4 through 7 slash 8, 9, so I'll say 4 through 8. There is like a lot of it where it is multiple layers just building on itself. And it's just layering on the guilt and layering on the guilt and layering on the guilt. And I made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Now, okay, great. Make a searching and fearless moral inventory of yourself. I actually think that step on its own, like the way that it's written, is not necessarily a bad thing. But you'll notice that in step 5, immediately afterwards, we admitted to God, ourselves, and another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. What about all of our rights? What about all of our strengths? What about all of our great qualities? Because we just made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves.
Right. Why are there just negatives?
Why are we discarding half of that?
Because it's sort of like the what the Catholics call examining the conscience, examination of conscience, which is where you go, I think I've sinned, but I can't remember the sin I've done, and you kind of think about it, and you look in your heart and go, oh,
It's not just
the
what's in
way
your
I
heart.
treated somebody, or that, and it's
This is the
similar,
other
and
thing.
I don't think it's wrong to do that. I do that quite a bit myself, like like what I've messed up on and stuff like that. But you're right. Where's the positive? Where's the this is what you've done right? Because that's what they teach you. Like for instance, in management, if you have to, bring someone aside, you also tell them what they're doing right.
Right. But like, do a true self analysis, right? And the other thing is that this is, again, you'll notice that it says we make a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. As far as all of the groups that I went to, every single one of them, in some part of this step 4, incorporated the rest of the group to tell us what was horrible about us.
So that
Like,
story you told,
sat
Minnow,
in a
this is what I
circle.
have to say. Like,
Like this is we what we did in my group is we would have whenever somebody like announced that they were getting ready for their step 4, we would say, okay, next whatever, next meeting where so and so is doing their step 4. We had like a specific form that we passed around to everybody. And you were supposed to write, I can't remember, there were like a few categories to it, but I remember like one of them was like 3 positive things and like one of them was 3 negative things. And it was like I and I feel like there were like, oh, like 3 things that they could do to work on, and like there were maybe like more stuff to it than that. But I remember there was this one guy who at the time, now keep in mind, I have since been diagnosed with autism. I was not diagnosed at the time I had been diagnosed with ADHD. I had not been diagnosed with autism yet. There was this guy in our group who was obviously autistic. Like, obviously autistic. I don't know if he had, like, told us that he had autism, but or we all just knew. But, like, it was obvious to me. And the entire group used his step 4 as an opportunity to just fucking bully him and, like, tell him that he's an asshole.
Oh, so like they singled him out? Like, oh, you're an
Oh,
asshole because you didn't emotionally respond the way we want you to?
yeah, yeah.
That
They
sucks.
the step 4 was singling the person out every single time. That was when I did my step 4, I sat in a circle. And the other thing is you sit in a circle. Specifically for the step 4, you sit in a circle. Because this is you are taking a searching a fearless moral inventory of yourself, right? And you get this sheet of paper that's been printed out from like all the slips of paper that they filled out last time. And you get this sheet of paper and you're encouraged to like bring your family for your step 4. Like this is another thing that
Right.
it's like a
But I mean,
ceremony.
I don't think like being coming clean and to reality of the harm that you've done to other people is a bad thing.
We're not there yet. We're not
Oh, we're
there
not
yet.
there yet. Okay.
No. No. That's that's step 9. We're on step
Oh,
4.
we're not even there yet. Okay.
Step 4, you get this sheet of paper. And this sheet of paper is people telling you, "Oh, here's these like positive and then a lot of times they will use the positive to be like, "Oh, well this but this." And it's like a double-edged like a left-handed compliment.
You would have a lot of good blah blah blah, but blah blah blah. Like
Yes,
like as
exactly.
if that the negative is just negated the positive.
And you are to sit there in the group with instead of like in sometimes basically the way that our group was that most of the time we were all facing one direction that was the person who was there to share and whoever wanted to share got up at the front for specifically for step 4 ceremony we moved the chairs where we all were sitting in a circle so everybody's looking at you and you get this slip of paper that has all of this like fucking bullying fucking shit on it and you have to read it aloud and stop after every single one and say like how it is that you agree with that and like what it is that like you think basically about but you're like encouraged to like agree with that and see like oh yeah I can see that and give like an example of like how you do those things for every single person that is in the group now if there's like if people said exact same wording they would just make that like one item on the
By
list.
by then, how long have they known you and heard you? Because I know that people can go in and out of these groups quite a bit. Like they'll go, "Oh, I'm gonna hit a meeting."
Step 4 should be 4 months that you've been in the program. As far as, like, with your sponsor, it depends, like, my again, like, I changed sponsors, and so, like, I had to go through my steps again. But, like, I had already gone through, like, step, like, 8 or 9 when I had, like, changed sponsors, and I had to start back at the beginning.
Oh, if you change sponsors, they make you go through the step one again?
Just depends on the sponsor. Again, it's a fucking cult. It's just, like, whatever the fuck the fucking your person that's your supervisor that day fucking thinks. There's not the
And
guy
and mind
who
you,
wrote the steps
that
is
that
dead.
person that person that is your sponsor is not necessarily a qualified mental health person. They
Nope.
are just a person that also went through addiction and they're a little
No.
bit ahead of you.
The only qualifications is that they have had 12 months and then a lot of well and again that's not even necessarily a like absolute qualification that they have to have but most it's they have to have 12 months and then a lot of them they have to have gone through the 12 steps as well. Yeah,
Oh,
you have to
and
be really good at being a failure.
Aunt Jer asked what denomination he is. I didn't look it up.
Who oh sorry did I miss it?
The founder.
Oh, Bill Wilson. I don't actually remember. It says on that. And it
I'll place
actually
a bet. I'll place a bet and say Baptist.
it seems like Baptist. I feel like it's Baptist. And
Could be
if you look
Pentecostal, but I don't think so.
in the orange papers, he talks about the specific pastor that he actually stole a lot of this shit from that's in the big book, not necessarily the 12 steps.
We'll
But
get you an answer the next stream. We'll look it up.
yes, we will. Andrea said, what a power trip. I'm your new sponsor. I'm going to require you to start everything over at the beginning of the program. Yes. That's, yeah.
You're gonna have to confess to all the same people you confessed to before. Did you know I'm an addict?
Yeah, kind of. That's, yeah. And well, because at that point, like, I've had a new job, right? So like I need to like announce to all of everybody that I work for again. Now, mind you, at this point, I was running like a cleaning service where I was like literally like going into people's houses where they were like giving me like the keys and the code to their house. And like my sponsor wants me to like go through and tell every single one of them that I'm a drug addict.
Oh my gosh. I'm a drug addict. Trust me.
Because I had some weed in my dorm room, mind you. I mean, like, I still smoke weed. Guess what? Like, this is like.
Maybe this should fall under HIPAA.
No, it's not. Okay. AA, they give you a chip, right? You get the coin. I don't have any of my chips anymore. NA, you know what we get? You know what we get in NA? You get a fucking key fob.
A key
we
fob?
Are encouraged to, like, absolutely, for all of our keys, for like all of our work keys, for everything, we are encouraged to not only keep that, like, our current key fob, but like all of them, so that it becomes this like more and more obnoxious looking thing. Like the longer that
so much for being anonymous.
It's like it's
really truly it's so much for being anonymous.
NA. And the reason why it's like Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous is that it's like what is said in the rooms is supposed to be like it stays there. What's said in the room stays in the room. What happens in the outside world stays in the outside world. Now we'll talk about that later about how like that is not the case. But yeah, that's the idea, is that like, oh, if you talk about anything from the outside world, you're supposed to say, oh, this individual, and be like nondescript. And you'll notice that I am doing that while I'm doing even though there is.
Well, that's what you should do.
No
you shouldn't.
HIPAA,
yeah.
But like I am, like, out of respect, like I'm just going
right.
to. But there are a lot of people who are watching this right now saying like, I shouldn't be saying jack shit about anything that happened in those rooms. I shouldn't be saying one word about it because what happened in those rooms stays in those rooms.
Right. I know the name of my family member's sponsor, who was a jackass, but I'm not going to like shout it out, like that's stupid.
But like there are people who seriously, they think that we should not even be talking about, oh, we go over the 12 steps. Oh, at each meeting, like this is the way that the chair is faced or anything like that. Like we should not be like.
Oh, are we giving up like secret Mormon temple secrets right now?
Yes. Yeah.
And handshakes? Oh no, yeah. We're giving up the handshakes, guys.
But the thing about it is that like everybody's fucking been like, not everybody, but you get like so many people have been in those rooms that like it's not a fucking secret. There's what's the show that's, I keep getting like shorts, that it is the show where it's like the daughter's a gambler and the mom's an alcoholic, and like there's like multiple people on the show that are like working the 12 steps, and it's obvious that one or more of the producers has been in 12-step programs and like deep in 12-step programs, and like all of that shit's fucking accurate. I remember even like I went in 2006, 2005, 2000, yeah, 2006. And like even then, most media portrayals were like maybe a little bit like inaccurate about like a couple of the details, but for the most part, pretty accurate, because like there were people who were in those programs who were working on that shit. And like maybe, okay, one of the writers got it off a little bit, but nobody corrected them because it's supposed to be anonymous. Right. But yeah, this is how it all, like, it's ridiculous. Right. But we're supposed to keep it separated. We're supposed to keep it separated, and we can't talk about it.
Aunt Jer, don't tell him about the bisexual orgies. I'm bisexual. Don't tell him about it. Shh.
Oh, am I missing messages?
Yeah, I had to show it on the channel. I had to flip to look at it, and I found that it was it auto hid on your channel.
Oh no.
I guess orgy is a banned word. Sorry.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. But yeah, that's step 4. Now, then we get to step 5, and we're supposed to admit to ourselves, like, and this is when you sit down with your sponsor. And I wish I should have gone back through like my storage and gotten out my workbook, because there's like literally like a workbook that you sit down and you have like multiple meetings with your sponsor. Now both of my sponsors did this the same way, where we sat down and had like multiple meetings where they would be like, okay, you're going to talk about like your childhood and like all of like the bad shit that you did in your childhood.
It all started
And
when I was 2.
here's what I learned with my first time going through this is I don't have a lot of memories of my childhood, and they don't like that.
That's common though for people with trauma. Like I remember a lot of my childhood, but it's also not uncommon for people with traumatic experiences to not remember things as well.
Like literally I don't remember. And like they
Yeah, there's
didn't like it.
sometimes gaps for people.
And
Unqualified, get a psychologist instead.
these people are basically acting like psychologists. Yes. And so they sit down and they're like, "Oh yeah," and they like will sit with you. It is very much like a therapy session. And they'll be like, "Well, yeah, like that's related to your like generational alcoholism. It's related to your grandfather being an alcoholic, even though you never met him and he died before you were born. And this is related to you being an addict, and this is, you know, how you became an addict, and all of the stuff that you'll sit down and, again, not qualified to be giving any type of mental health anything. But this guy is your sponsor, and the way that they are treated in the program is if they are speaking the word of God. And so
You
you
listen
have to
to your
sit there.
prophet.
Yeah, you have to sit there and listen to your prophet and admit to yourself, to another human being, blah, 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 the exact nature of your wrongs. And then you're supposed to have like another meeting with your sponsor where you basically like make a list of all of these things. Now you already have now my step 4, I kept it for like the longest fucking time. It was like my bookmark in my NA, like my NA book. It was and you keep that when the things that they tell you about yourself when you make a searching and fearless moral inventory of yourself. You keep that. What you then in your step 6 is you like sit down and write out all of the shit from your step 5 that has like come up in your step 5. And that's usually like a separate step, but it's weird because I kind of overlapped mine where it was like I'm having like this sort of therapy session, and then I would like take notes on the therapy session, and then, you know, that kind of thing as I was going through my step 5. But the way that you're supposed to do it is you're supposed to do your step 5, and then as a separate step 6, sit down and like go back over all of that shit, I guess, yourself, and then write all of the shit up. And then you take it to your group leader, who is your step 7, and then a lot of times either the group leader will read it to the group, or they will have you read it to the group, which is fun. And then when you do your step 8, it's like, again, it's just basically a repeat, because at this point, like, it's all of like your wrongs and your defects of character and all of your like bad shit. So then you're like, oh, okay, like how did my like defects and my wrongs and my bad shit, like how did that hurt other people? Even though like you're already thinking about this, if you like have like a brain that's more mature than an 8-year-old, when you're going through this, you're thinking about like, oh yeah, like this really did affect other people. But they assume that you haven't thought about any of that. So then in step 8, then we're supposed to like go through and think about all the other people that were affected by this, which I guess
I
like, if
think
you haven't done that is maybe good.
I think there's a percentage of addicts that don't think about it and don't give a flying F. And there's a percentage of addicts that absolutely do, and it makes them actually sometimes drink more. So it just kind of depends, I think, on that. But um, there are some people that actually are not thinking very deeply about it at all.
Yeah. And unfortunately, yes, Aunt Jara, I did internalize the self-hatred that they were imposing on me for smoking weed for a long, long time. And for quite a while, even after that, like realizing that weed helped with my mental health and all of that shit, I still had a lot of guilt associated with it. But I do think we'll get to who it is that I specifically think that these 12 steps work for when we get to get through them. But yeah,
People that want to be a cult leader love it.
yeah, but does it work for them? So at this point, we've made a list, and then we're supposed to go through. Then at this point, and you're supposed to like make direct amends. Now, a lot of this is like shit that's like I was like rude to somebody like in my childhood, or like when I was like literally 13 years old, I was like mean to another person who like was in the same sport as I was. And like I'm supposed to like go back to them and then like reopen this wound of like, hey, remember this rivalry that we had when we were like 13? Well, I did a thing that I'm not proud of. And I remember it, and you probably forgot about it. But I feel the need to like make amends to you now. It's like that kind of shit, which is absolutely fucking ridiculous, right? But this is now again, I can see where in some instances this is a good thing. In some instances, this is a good thing. Where, like you said, some addicts don't even think about it. Hey, I stole so and so's fucking car. They don't have a car now. Maybe I should go to them and say, hey, what can I do? I can't buy you a new car, but like, can I pay for your bus pass? Or, can I, whatever, right? I know somebody who sells cars now who can like maybe get you a good deal. Like that. Okay, I can see where some of that is good, but no, we're supposed to do it like whenever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. But like, how are we supposed to know? Like, we're just supposed to determine ourselves
Yeah,
when
you're
it would
not sure.
determine when it would injure them or others. And others could be ourselves, right? So if we're like, oh, that would emotionally harm me. I've seen addicts that do that, right? And so it's this weird sort of like gray area where it's like, oh, like, do I believe again, like it was before, where it's like, have you already internalized this on your own, or do you need the group to do it? It's such a wide swath of people who knows what this person needs, what part of the spectrum they're on. But yeah, okay, we're just supposed to decide as people who have knowingly supposedly been alcoholics and addicts, who have knowingly have a past of substance abuse, that we're supposed to know when it's going to be good for other people, for them to have this information and for us to make amends with them. But again, people just use it all the time. This is the thing that I saw like over and over again, that people be like, oh, well, I determined that would injure them to know that information. So therefore, I don't need to make amends because that would injure them. And then step 10, we continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Again, this is just like step like 10, 11, 12 is just like the continuing part of it. But I think that the thing that bothers me about step 10 is that it's like, it sort of brings you into this short circuit where you could just like, if you bump into somebody at the grocery store, you can just say, excuse me, and move on. You don't have to like take a personal inventory and determine that you were wrong and admit to that person that you were wrong and say, oh, I'm sorry. Like I bumped into you. Like, it can just
I'm
be sorry.
sorry I bumped into you. I'm an oblivious, horrible person, and I only care about myself, and I'm self-centered, and it started at 12. No.
And
Most people
I
just excuse me, pardon me.
I will make a searching effort to continue to not bump into people in the future. Like, that's what they want us to do. That's the way that it's treated. And I see that I'm losing people on the fucking view counter, but I don't care because it is fucking ridiculous. And yes, maybe it does work for some people, but I'll get to who in a minute. Step 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. Again, this is supposed to be a secular organization.
It doesn't sound very secular. And this is something I wanted to jump on real quick. The family member that this did not work for, who did pass away, was an atheist. And he was forced to go to this, and it was not helpful whatsoever. And he did go to all the meetings and everything. But and then they'll go, well, you didn't work his steps or whatever, whatever nonsense. But at the same time, like, I have another friend whose brother was mandated by the court to go to this, and he refused, and he took jail time instead because of on principle. He's like, you can't make me go to a religious organization. It's not a religious organization. Yes, it is.
Also, side note, if you are somebody who is like facing probation and parole and is mandated to go to these, I did see, and I'll have to link it for next time, that there is resources for people to like be able to like object to being sent to these programs. So if you are in that situation, please hang tight, and I will try and get resources for that, or look up resource, like Google it, because like they're out there.
Right.
Is my point. Um, but yeah, like don't just like
The
give up and
12
go if this is something that you're really looking at and saying this seems like it's going to be a problem for me. Look up resources. You don't have to go.
12 steps would be more effective for Christians that
Absolutely.
are already in that mindset.
Mhm. So step 12, let me get through really quick, is having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry out its message to alcoholics and practice these principles in all of our affairs. So basically proselytization. Um, I think that this program works really well for the specific group of Christians that is dealing with some type of arrested development where their mental maturity is like around that of a teenager. And for people who are like more mature or more intellectual than that, it seems to be a problem. It seems to
And
not be helpful.
there are Christian skeptics that do have trouble with this as well. Like pretty much any kind of skeptic of any sort, whether religious or not religious, seems to struggle with 12 steps a little bit. And the people that are not skeptical seem to do just fine. So I'm not trying to knock it and be like, don't ever go and get any help, because if this helps you, good for you. But there are a percentage of people this does not help. And nobody's addressing the whys of why it doesn't help them. And some of it is their belief system is not at all compatible with this.
Well, that's some of it. Yeah. But even people who are Christian and this is very compatible with their belief system, it doesn't work for them as well. And Jared brings up a very good point about how Alcoholics Anonymous calculates their success and failure rates. If you look at like their percentage of like by their own studies, it's about 5% that desist from drinking in their program, but they will claim that it's like much higher. And if you like look at the way that they'll say, oh, within a year it's X amount of people, but those aren't necessarily people who they might cease drinking for a period of time, but they do not desist drinking long term. So it's like, oh, okay, they're sober for the meeting. That counts as like that they're sober for their statistics, right? By their own studies, and that's one of the things that we're going to get into here in a little bit. They, for the most part, they don't work. It doesn't work. There is one particular doctor, and it was like his name is like a French name, so I don't really want to mispronounce it. But he did his own studies on this. He's and in support of Alcoholics Anonymous, he is somebody who is still like at the conclusion of his study was in support of Alcoholics Anonymous, but by his own studies and by his own data that he collected, basically found that Alcoholics Anonymous was ineffective. It was not any more effective than basically the spontaneous remission rate from drinking without intervention, which is really interesting, right? About 5% will just 5% of people will just stop drinking because they just realize that it's a problem. They're able to get a handle of it, and they're going to stop drinking on their own.
There is one thing in Alcoholics Anonymous that I do think is true of many people that deal with addiction, which is rock bottom.
Yeah.
Wherever that rock bottom might be. And some people's rock bottom, unfortunately, is death. It's very unfortunate. But it could be losing your job, losing your wife, losing your husband, losing custody of your kids or whatever. And that could be your rock bottom. And you go, I need to change. I need help to change. And I think that is actually a true thing. And that's what I have witnessed from people. but they also will encourage you to let people's rock bottom be homeless.
Yeah.
They'll go, well, let your kid be homeless. What if you're in a freezing area, or whatever, you know, and talk about the most human indignity, and talk about like how people increase their mental illnesses when they're homeless for 2 weeks or more.
Well, also they will do this thing, and I think that this is really interesting, and this might be what Aunt Jared was getting at with how they calculate their success and failure rates, is, again, Alcoholics Anonymous, so well known. There's not probably a person in America that hasn't heard of Alcoholics Anonymous at some point in time. So when people say, "Oh, I think that maybe I should quit drinking," what is one of the first things that they think of to go to? We live in a society where any type of medical intervention is extremely expensive, but these meetings are free. They're usually available daily. There's usually multiple available in your city. So people will go to a meeting, maybe try it out, maybe not even commit to it, but they'll sit down in the meeting. They'll be in the rooms for at least a meeting or two. And maybe then they go and they quit drinking. Well, Alcoholics Anonymous will say, well, see, you were in the rooms, and that's what we can attribute your cessation to. We can say that you quit drinking. You wouldn't have been able to do that had you not been in those rooms, had you not had alcohol.
So it's sort of like baptized a Catholic, always a Catholic.
Yeah. But rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. That's another thing that we fucking chant. Sorry.
It works if you work it.
Works if you work it. Which, again, isn't true. By their own statistics. Even the people who are thoroughly following the path, okay, they say rarely have we seen a person fail. So you're admitting that it has happened. Right? It's rare, but it does happen. But like only 5% of people who go through this program will quit drinking for over a year. 5%.
My thing is, we need alternatives that work better and are more inclusive.
Yep.
And when the court mandates you to go to something like this that might not work for your type of personality, it's very difficult, because it's like you said, this is free to go to, but it might not be the help you exactly need.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and Aunt Jer says, okay, Aunt Jer, I had a therapist doubt that I had stopped drinking on my own with no problem, spontaneous remission. Like I was like, I don't know what to tell you. That's what happened. Yeah. That's what happened. There are people who just quit. I just smoke weed now. Guess what? If you want to say I wasn't an addict, I was never an addict. Okay, well, it was the program that told me that I was an addict. Okay? So they're the ones who told me that I was an addict. They're the ones who brought me in the rooms and said, you belong here. So if I didn't belong there, that's on them. They also told me that I couldn't just do one drug, right? And if I ever did a drug, even my drug of choice and only my drug of choice, I would always have problems with it. It would always create issues in my life. That the only way to avoid issues in my life was to stay away from the drug. Even though that helps with my mental clarity, that helps with my mental health. That puts me in a better place where now I'm able to go back to school. Now I'm able to actually have a fulfilling career.
Weed is one of those interesting things too. I'm going to qualify you a little bit. Something that I do partake in, but my doctor is well aware that I do. And the thing is like I'm not schizoaffective or schizophrenic, right? Like it's not something that I deal with, but I have major depression, and sometimes for some people, major depression turns into like a psychotic break or something like that for some people. And so what they said to me was, if it works for you and it's helping with your pain, because I deal with a lot of chronic pain, like really bad chronic pain, actually, that's great. But if you hear voices or, this and that, they're giving me some things like to look for. Or if somebody's saying that you are imagining something, like you have Adventure Time in your living room and they're like, what are you doing? Like like they let the doctor know kind of thing, and we need to stop that. But like that is like a certain percentage of people. But it is good to know that for some people it is not the drug for you, and it's not a perfect drug. And for other people it's very helpful, people that have cancer, people that have ADHD, some people that have chronic pain, like
Glaucoma.
but yeah, glaucoma. There's different reasons why people partake in it, but at the same time, I always want to qualify and go, it might not be good for you, kind of thing.
And I appreciate you doing that. I do appreciate you doing that, Speckle, because yes, it's absolutely and with any drug, like with any substance, there might be some people that have an adverse
Pres-
reaction to it.
Prescribed substances.
Those as
In
well, yeah.
fact, in fact, when I was on
Those
Prozac, it was a black box warning on Prozac.
those yeah, I was gonna say I feel almost a little bit better about those that they like come with a warning. I do like the more that THC is getting legalized and regulated in different states, it is getting those types of warnings. But yeah, it is in a lot of places still highly unregulated, and it doesn't because of that you don't get the black box warning. It maybe
Yeah,
should have one. Yeah,
yeah, and I've known people that have had adverse reactions to weed, and it's just not good for them to be on. And usually there's some other underlying issue or whatever, but like for some other people it's like a godsend. So it just is a really depends thing. But so St. John's worts makes me more depressed. That
that's
works for some people, and it doesn't work for me.
and what's the one that is good for memory? I think that's hilarious that I'm actually forgetting the one.
Oh, right, I'm gonna forget it now too. Ginkgo.
Yeah, that sounds right. It might be the ginkgo biloba, but yeah, like some people have like really weird reactions from that. Like I don't know. I haven't taken
Yeah,
it myself, but
that's how I was sold on
maybe I
weed. It
should.
was as a gateway drug. Once you start, you can't stop. So I was like, cool, I'm gonna start, and then I'm like gonna stop for 3 months. Oh, look at that.
Now, the irony I think here is that if you go to an NA meeting, like pretty much guaranteed that there will be people with drugs in the parking lot at the NA meeting, but it probably won't be weed.
Oh, great. Yeah. Like you might have started with weed, but you won't end with it.
Like they will have the hard shit at the NA meetings. Yeah. I
Man,
mean, you might be able to get some weed, but like no, if you're like looking for no, I should don't do drugs, kids. But
don't do it. No.
don't do it. But realistically, yeah, there's probably people in the parking lot of the majority of Narcotics Anonymous meetings who are doing like hard shit.
So, alcohol is one of those things I'm a little bit fire about because the family member who died was an alcoholic. And alcohol is treated like it's no big deal, and it's a social affair for everybody. And it's one of the roughest drugs to get off of. It's really terrible. Um, People die of quitting cold turkey. It's a very serious thing.
Yes. That's
And
my
and
treatment
yet
facility.
weed
There was
has been treated like it's the worst thing ever. And I'm like, alcohol.
that's I absolutely grew up like thinking that like weed was much worse drug than alcohol. And it was always treated that way also. But then when I went into treatment, that's a funny thing that I it was immediately like apparent that there was so we had and a lot of treatment facilities have this if they have if it's a drug treatment facility for people who are like serious addicts that there is and I think probably alcohol treatments as well there's like a detox section where just people who are like detoxing from like hard narcotics usually like opiates and alcohol I think where they like could seriously die from the
Yeah,
detox.
you need a medical intervention usually,
And
because
they
it's
are, like,
pretty
in, like,
dangerous.
a medical yeah, and, they will be there for, like, a few days, usually before they go into the rest of the treatment facility.
I
But, like, as somebody who just, like, smoked weed and, like, didn't even regularly drink, they were like, "Oh, yeah, you're fine." You but
so
most of the alcoholics had to go through the
so
detox.
I this is a weird side note, but as you know, I'm kind of a weirdo watcher. And Revelation News and Shanny for Christ. Shanny for Christ convinced Revelation News to stop alcohol cold turkey. and he went into seizures. He had 4 massive seizures,
Like
and
grand mal
he,
seizures.
yeah, really bad. And for months he was um, like a rag doll kind of, and couldn't put his words together, and like he brain damaged. He was brain damaged.
Likely has permanent brain damage as a
Well,
result.
yeah, yeah, he does. And he has been to a doctor since, but like the fact is that he was bullied, and she's a bully. He was bullied by somebody to cold turkey right then and there, and she acted like she was qualified to do that. And that's just an example of something that we saw go down, like live, the results of that and everything, and her talking about how qualified she was and seeing the results of him. And I just want to point out, like, not it's not funny because I feel sorry for him. But I what
We
I
both
think,
do that nervous laughter thing. So like
yeah, I know,
just
ha
to be
ha ha,
clear to anybody who's like
yeah,
watching, like we both do
yeah.
the nervous laughter thing. If you see us laughing, it's not because we think it's funny.
No, it's not that it's not a malice thing. It's more like it was an example of what not to do to your family member. Um, get them medical intervention, because people always think alcohol kills your liver, but it kills your brain, and it really bad, and causes seizures and things like that. It kills your esophagus, your stomach. You can bleed out. And my family member in this case bled out. They busted a hole in their esophagus and bled out, and that's how they died. And it was really awful. And I think that in this case it was COVID related, in the sense that they kicked him out of the office. They kicked him out of the hospital too soon because of COVID. They were overcrowded. They kicked him out of the hospital too soon in the middle of the night, and they should have kept him. And then he had a rupture, unfortunately. Um, but what I was going to say is that that is a scenario that's a little more complex. But what you see often when people go, I'm just going to quit cold turkey, is they go into seizures and things like that, and you can cause brain damage, and it's really terrible. And
You
then
can
some
die.
people, you can die, you can be intellectually stunted, and just get them some help, like the right way if you can.
Get some help. Get medical help. Smart recovery. There's also a few other recovery programs that are linked down in the description. There's also an article that discusses those different a few different recovery programs and which ones are good for which situations. There are ones that are gender specific programs. If you want like a woman's program that's you're worried about predatory men, which I get it. There are specifically women's programs. There are specifically secular programs that are linked down there as well. I don't know that I have any that are specifically religious ones, but I should probably add some because people who are religious also have issues with addiction and alcoholism. But yes, like please do get help. Just because I am talking about the problems of AA and NA and these specific aspects of this specific program of recovery, quote unquote recovery, does not mean that there is no chance of recovery. That's why I've had this ticker going the bottom of the screen the entire time. If you have a problem with addiction, help is available and recovery is possible. Um, because I want to encourage you to get help. I absolutely do want to encourage everyone to get help. Help is available. It's just that programs like these can really be predatory and really do not help as much as you would think that they do. And they say that they help. They're saying this is the only way. They'll tell you if you leave these rooms, your only other options are jails, institutions, or death. But really, there is other options. There really are. If you have tried to work the steps and the steps did not work for you, it is not your fault. Okay, it is not a you problem. You can find other treatment programs that will work for you. I promise. I promise. I promise. I just want to say that because, yeah, I don't want people to lose hope.
Also, keep in mind, 12 steps is different than a rehab facility, which I think Jer knows, but like for other people, it works a little bit differently. And again, a lot of times they can help medically help you detox as well,
Yes,
if they
and
have the proper
some
staff.
And some recovery facilities are 12-step recovery facilities, and some of them are not 12-step recovery facilities, and some of them are not 12-step recovery facilities, but they cater to the 12-step recovery. And like it just depends. But yeah, that's why I specifically went for ones in that I linked down below that are like specifically not 12-step recovery programs. That they some of them have inpatient rehab facilities, and some of them are just outpatient programs, but they're all completely separate from 12-step programs. But yeah, um, we are at an hour and 35, so I think we're gonna run for another 25 minutes. I just want to give everybody a heads up because I know that we are on point one of this, and I think that yes,
I told you it's a
15 points.
lot. It's going to be a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's we talked about this beforehand that I just said we're gonna try and go to 2 hours and just see what we can get through. Um, And I do want to take some time at the end to chat if anybody has any questions. I know we've been trying to answer Aunt Jera's questions as we've been going, but if there's anybody else that has questions, or if Aunt Jera, if you got any more questions, I do want to take some time to just chat a little bit at the end. But I just want to give everybody a heads up. We're definitely not getting through all of
So
this section today.
one of the things with the ER is they stabilize the person, they go out and they do it again, and they do it again, and they do it
Yeah,
again, and they're like frequent flyers in the ER, and I know them, and they come in again and again and again, and then eventually, I hate to say it, but they start caring less and less. Unfortunately, it's like they stabilize the person, ship them out. If they get a taxi, good, kind of thing, and it kind of gets kind of gnarly. But the good news is that some people do take the help that's offered, but a lot of people get stabilized and then they run off and do it again. Or same thing with like when I was doing a side by side for 911 calls because I thought I might want to do that. I decided not to. But when I did that, it was like call after call of like ODing and stuff like that. And one of the problems that we run into is they give somebody Narcan, try to get them to the hospital, they keep refusing, and then and they're like, I'm fine, and then they like the whatever the receptors are blocked from Narcan start receiving again, and then they end up ODing again, like right after, and it's like, come on, guys. But you can't force somebody unless they're unconscious to go into like an ambulance. So it's like a whole thing.
yeah.
And so like it's pretty wild, but yeah. It by the way, number one call besides fire alarms going off was ODing on something
I believe it. I believe it.
in San Diego
Unfortunately,
at least. Yeah.
I think it's probably everywhere. I mean, I grew up in I don't I don't know how specific I want to get, but the town that I grew up in was very close to what they consider to be the meth capital of the world. As in that county has more like meth arrests per person than any other county in that state, and that state has more meth arrests than any other state in the
Yeah.
union.
Like Fresno, California is a big meth place. And certain towns in Ohio are big meth places. Like they're just like known, unfortunately. And now
This was
fentanyl's coming in through, which is even more scary, unfortunately.
But yeah, we had per capita like basically more meth deaths than anywhere else
Yeah.
in the world. And it's sad. It's because yeah, you see people that like try to get better, but they don't. It's kind of a rotating thing, like you were saying. It's people they start to OD, then they take the Narcan, and then they think that they're better, and then the Narcan starts to wear off, and it's and you want to get people help, but it's the first line of treatment often doesn't work for people. That's the other thing with a lot of narcotics is that a lot of times you just need to go to treatment more than once. And
Yeah.
it's not necessarily that you need to go to a different treatment facility. Sometimes you just need to go a couple times.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of how it is. But when I was in NA, I would see people who regularly they had been through rehab 7 times, 9 times, 14 times. Um, That's the I remember one guy that it was a good friend of mine in inpatient, and it was his 14th time going through inpatient. 14.
I mean, I have to give him props for coming back. A lot of people wouldn't come back. I mean, there's that.
I think a lot of it was family pressure, but yeah, like but but you get what I'm saying is it's like he's tried to work the steps so many times. He knows the steps as well as anybody who's been in the program for a year and is taking on sponsees, right?
Yeah,
But it's obviously not working for him, and obviously he wants to get better. Otherwise, he wouldn't keep coming back 14 fucking times.
yeah. There needs to be multiple ways to handle this, not just one angle or two angles, you know.
But we're taught jails, institutions, and death. If you don't do this, your other options are jails, institutions, and death. And this is the second lie that Orange cites is that drug and alcohol addictions are not incurable progressive diseases that usually end in death. And this is a quote from his article. And they're also not spiritual diseases. The truth is that most people spontaneously recover and simply mature out of addictive behavior. Eventually, most of them simply get sick and tired of being sick and tired and wise up. Yeah, 5% per year will just spontaneously desist.
I asked a I asked a coworker who nearly died once. I said, "What was it that made you change? What was it that said I need to give up alcohol? What was it? What was that turning point?" I wanted to know, right? Because
Yeah,
obviously, you know.
share
And
with us.
he said that he was dying, or nearly dead, and had liver problems and was in the hospital. And it was just simply, I don't want to die yet. That was his turnaround. He just decided, oh, I don't, when faced with death, I don't actually want to die, which I guess he was interested before. And then once he was at the door, he was like, oh, never mind. Um,
That's
Unfortunately, that's a very dangerous rock bottom right there. It's, yeah, but
Yeah, but that's how it is for a lot of people. That's
yeah,
you and I both know somebody who recently went through a very big operation because of a situation where they had for many years had nicotine, smoked cigarettes. And
yeah,
a few years back they went through some shit where they fucking damn near died. And they were like, "Oh shit." And they
yeah.
quit smoking cigarettes. Like
Well,
that's what
even
it
in a
does.
milder case, I'm okay, guys. This is my confession of my addiction. I'm a massive soda addiction. It's not. I'm not trying to be funny. Actually, it's actually quite a weird thing. I'm very attached to soda, and I drink a lot of it. And um, I typically don't have kidney stones, but I had one that almost just killed me. And my husband dumped all the soda out that I had in the house. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to stop drinking soda because it was probably a contributor, like,
Just make sure you
um,
are drinking water.
I am drinking water for sure. I'm drinking loads of water and then I have some Gatorade and stuff. But anyway, and now I'm kind of trying to stay away from caffeine because that's going to hook me back into soda. And coffee is not so great either. But anyway, the point is that I think we all have certain things that we're compelled to do for whatever reason, and then it's hard for us to break the habit. And some of them are more severe, like alcohol. It's not just it's a physical dependency, not an emotional dependency. Where something like soda is more of an emotional dependency, I would guess, kind of thing. But like
I think
whatever it
with
is,
sugar, I think with sugar, you also have the physical dependency. Years back, I quit all sugar, like besides like natural sugar, so like fruit and like I had like honey sticks was about like the only sweetener that I used for shit. And I didn't talk to my doctor about it beforehand. She was fucking pissed at me afterwards because I did go through literal physical DTs where I would like be shaking. I remember at one point calling up my partner and just like sobbing on the phone, just like absolutely bawling and being like, I don't even know why I'm crying right now. Like I am just going through it. And that was from quitting sugar.
wow.
Yeah.
So like there's interesting all the different things that can affect you different ways, but you reach a point sometimes where you go, maybe I need to stop that or at least lessen that quite a bit. And for me right now, I'm gonna stop it. And maybe it'll turn into an occasional at a restaurant or something, but it's not. I'm gonna try to keep it out of my house.
Yeah. And so I worked the steps for years and continued using nicotine for years. And that wasn't even really discouraged at all. If you ever go to like a 12-step meeting, you'll notice that there's just people
I
chain
swear people
smoking outside.
start smoking from AA. They
There was one guy
started.
in my group who started smoking. I like to think that he was like an odd one, but like, yeah, I have seen it. But yeah, that's not considered an addiction, right? Now for me, that was absolutely the hardest thing to kick. And what it took was seeing somebody going through the medical, like, shit that damn near fucking killed them, right?
Yeah.
And seeing that was like, "Oh shit, like, I can't continue to do this to my body." But
Yeah.
it wasn't the steps. I'd already worked all the steps. Now, AA and NA would say, "Oh, well, if you hadn't worked the steps, you would still be smoking cigarettes."
There's
But
so
they would
many
attribute
people
that.
that I was just gonna say nicotine's so powerful. There's so many people that quit and get drawn back to it 8 years later, 10 years later.
I
It's
did a
like
couple
you're,
of times.
yeah,
It wasn't 8 or 10 years, but yeah.
and then you associate it with certain things. Like some people, I've never been a smoker, but I obviously know many. They'll associate with when I have coffee, I'm going to have a smoke. When I step outside, I'm going to have a smoke. When I go to a restaurant or a bar with friends and I step outside, I'm going to have a smoke. In fact, sometimes it's nice to have a reason to step out to get away from the crowd, especially if you are a little bit crowd sensitive. Um,
Absolutely. I
there's
absolutely think that way. The
all
one that's
sorts
really
of hooks.
embarrassing, this is the one that was really embarrassing that I, like, had to, like, retrain my body how to when to poop. I always I always have a smoke before I go poop. It's like it
Oh,
tells my
I
gut
was like, I was like, what?
it is time to poop, and I didn't know how to, like, tell my gut, like, "Hey, it's time to poop."
There is a phenomenon with weed where some people lose their appetite until they smoke weed. And I'm not talking about people that have cancer, but there are some people that get so used to that being the trigger that is kind of a weird thing that might need to be watched.
I wish that would happen. No, I'm just kidding. Like, I'm jokingly saying I wish that would
There's
happen to
just a
me because
percentage of people, yeah.
not that is not the case for me. But yeah, I believe I could see where that could happen for sure, for sure. But yeah, I it is interesting to me that we attribute so many people attribute their quitting with going through AA when, like, when you really look at it, it's usually like AA says, "Oh, you need to find your rock bottom," but, like, did you really need AA to, like, help you find it? I don't know. I don't think so in a lot of cases. Um, Orange's point number 3, Alcoholics Anonymous isn't about quitting drinking. It's about Alcoholics Anonymous. Which yes, he's right. It's it's a power trip. Like, Bill Wilson was, like, on a power trip where he thought that he found the answer. He found what he thought made him quit drinking. And I get that there was a part of him that was like, "I wanna share this with the world. This was the answer. This is great." I get that part of it. It's just that they took it fucking way too far, and they kept going with it. And I don't know if Bill Wilson would be appalled at what it is today. I don't know. I've read the Big Book a few times. In some ways, I think that he would, like, really like it. They because we worship him almost like a cult figure. Very more than almost like a cult figure. We worship him as a cult figure. But this is again, these are more quotes. At the moment, we are trying to put our lives in order, but this is not an end in itself. Our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be maximum service to God. So, like, we're supposed to, again, this is like the 12 step where we're supposed to be, like, living in our, like, spiritual awakening.
Now, some people change the terminology to be a little more inclusive into higher power.
Yeah, this is straight from the Big Book, but yeah.
And
NA will say, the NA book almost always says higher power instead of God.
which is probably smarter because not everybody has the same God or believes in God, you know. So then you got to go, well, what's a higher power to? This is not me being a theistic snot, by the way. What's a higher power to an atheist? And so I've talked to atheists who've done AA, and some people said humanity, like more like a humanism thing, or whatever. And they're, but it's encouraging you to grab a philosophy of some sort, almost.
Yeah.
Um,
I was an atheist by the time that I went into the program, and I was considered, I was encouraged to consider the group as a higher power. And basically what I was told was, okay, I have the power of one person, but the power of this group of 30 people is the power of 30, right? So that is a higher power. And in that way, like, I was encouraged to like work the steps.
ooh,
And
that's sketchy.
yeah. And again, then at this point, you're supposed to be taking the word God, because this is again the quote out of the big book is it's God. And you replace God with a group.
Yeah,
And
that
who is the group at any one point in time? Was it the president, the treasury, the GSR? Who is it? Who is it? Right? It's all of us. I am the church. You are the church. We are the church together.
sounds a little Christian Scientology and culty Church of God and stuff.
Did you say the word? What?
What?
The word? The C word? Remember that we deal with alcohol or whatever our addiction is, because remember, we have like it might be gambling, it might be racism, it might be sex, it might be codependency, it might be we deal with whatever, which is cunning, baffling, and powerful. Without help, it is too much for us. But there is one who has all power, and that one is God. May you find him now. Again, this is
Now,
out of the book.
now I believe in God, but and I can, but I also believe that you cannot approach every problem spiritually, and that there's mental and
Again,
spiritual things and physical things.
we are taught that God is the group, right? The one who's all powerful is the group. Sorry, I need to get my appropriate arm for my microphone. I know that I'm clunky and stuff. And my lights and my sound are not great today, guys. I'm doing my best. I'm sorry. But yeah, we were encouraged to think of the group as a higher power. Even the people who are Christian in the group were encouraged to think of the group as a higher power. So,
I don't know
and,
why that makes me so uncomfortable, but it does.
and
Maybe
keep in
because I've
mind,
experienced a culty church before, so I'm like,
step 3. What's step 3? We made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. Our will is not our own. Once we've passed step 3, it's not our will. It's the will of God. And who is God? God is the group. It's not our will.
ooh,
It is the will of the group.
I don't like this. I'm like, ooh, I'm balking at
So,
it.
Alcoholics Anonymous isn't about quitting drinking. It's about Alcoholics Anonymous. You get it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think there's certain people that get kind of power trippy in it, but that's a whole nother discussion.
We will get there. And he talks about that a little bit. Okay, that's what I was gonna say. It comes up pretty soon. Number 4. Here we are. We've arrived. Alcoholics Anonymous meetings are not safe havens where newcomers will find unconditional love and acceptance, expert advice on recovery, and wise self-sacrificing helpers. Alcoholics Anonymous meetings are ceremonies with irrational beliefs, bad advice, where irrational beliefs and bad advice are commonplace. Dissenting voices and criticism of the AA program are not appreciated or loved. Sexual exploitation of newcomers, especially of but not limited to women, is all too common. Yeah. you are immediately like looked at by a fucking piece of meat. You are looked at like a fucking piece of meat, especially for young women. Thank you, Jer. I appreciate that. I'm trying to stay on top of it.
So you got to tell those people, if you're in that group, to be like, yo, you can't date anybody until you've been clean a year.
But they tell you that. And then at the same time, there will be people who within the group, this is now luckily I wasn't necessarily subjected to this. I saw some of this shit coming, and I was actually just talking to somebody today about how I luckily had some experiences as a young person that taught me to be keen and aware of creepy men making creepy advances. But I have heard about groups where like they basically encourage young women to like sleep with all of the men in the group and not like form a relationship, but just to like satisfy their sexual urges and shit because you know they're not supposed to date. So like this is a way for them, and they like
That's
convince the
broken.
women that it's like they're yeah exactly, and it's also like implied that like this is a way that you can like work your way up through the steps faster. This is a way that you can like have less pressure on you through those like steps 4 through 8. Like this is a way that you can like ease your way through this. And it's
No,
absolutely like
I don't think that's the norm of what I've heard, but like I think that's definitely possible because like there's all sorts of groups that do that sort of shit where it's coercive and
I could
manipulative.
see where it is very much tolerated in a lot of the groups where if someone's doing that with their sponsee, you're not to get between the relationship between a sponsor and a sponsee.
I would have thought that there would be a rule that you can't have sexual relationships within the group. That's what I would have thought, because that would
You would
make
think
sense to
wrong.
me.
You would think wrong. There is again, there will be rules about romantic relationships. Those are typically separate from sexual relationships.
And in my opinion, sexual relationships are worse, but that's a whole nother discussion.
But yeah, that's kind of just it seems like it's pretty par for the course. Like I was saying before, because I typically did morning meetings, that was my most often meeting that I would go to. Sorry, my allergies are so bad today. I think I just swept like right before I sat down, so like that the dust is it's finally settling down, but at first when I sat down, it was so bad.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but I luckily was able to sort of be separate from a lot of the stupid shit that would happen after meetings. That was a lot of the drama because I was just like, I'm gonna go do my thing, and it was morning meetings, and I had to go to work. So,
Yeah, I think I would have split from that place. I don't like that whole idea that you're describing. I'm like, I'm gone.
but that's a lot of them were like this, and a lot of them were, or it would be like, the one I remember. Again, this was the one group that I went to was like 30 minutes away from my home. So I would go there and it was like, oh, well, like if you're, it's like a 30-minute drive, you should just like come over to my place and stay over. And like, we'll just like read the step workbook and like read our big books or, like that sort of thing. And like have like a little slumber party and stuff.
We're gonna have a Bible study together, and afterwards we'll sleep together. It'll be fine.
But that's absolutely, yeah.
Which actually happens more often than you think.
It happens a lot. It happens a
Because
lot with
people
AA.
because here's why it happens in Christian circles, because you're emotionally more vulnerable. If you're talking about spiritual things, a lot of times you're talking about problems and things that are
Absolutely.
close to the heart and things like that.
Same
And
thing
so
here.
if there's a little bit of spark of attraction or whatever, boom, all of a sudden the people that were like true love rates, they're sleeping together. Like, like
Right? Just like
yeah,
that. Boom.
yeah,
Yeah.
boom. But like knowing that about how humans work, because that's intimacy in a sense, right? I mean, if you're talking about the worst things you've ever done, that is a form of intimacy, and in a way, a
Absolutely.
type,
And
and
and a
and so yeah,
vulnerability and
vulnerable, yep, and it's manipulative, and in my opinion, this is just my opinion. I feel like to sleep with somebody in the AA group is absolutely predatory, but that's my opinion.
I I would agree with you. I think unfortunately it happens a lot, and unfortunately, a lot of the older, and when I say older people, I mean people who've been in there for a longer time. That's the people with a lot of clean time or sober time will look at these newcomers as really like pieces of meat. It's like, ooh, what's new on the menu, and it's gross and it's creepy. And a lot of times it's also there's like this sort of aspect of like grooming where it will be like, oh, well, like let me get her in with like my friend as a sponsor so that like we can have like meetups together where like, and they know that like the group highly discourages you from like dating anybody for like a year, but like they're going to use that year to like sidle up next to you and try and get like and you like get their hooks in you.
Hmm.
And then again, keep in mind that like very quickly, like you hear the 1 year thing when you're starting out, and it's like you gotta like it's specifically those first 3 steps is when you hear the 1 year thing. It's also the 1 year thing about like getting a pet. If you don't have any pets, you're supposed to like wait a year before you even get a pet. If you miss that at the beginning, they'll say no relationships, nothing that can depend on you for over a year. Once you have a year sober, get a house plan. It's like literally they tell you. Like, and oh, by the way, my house plant that I got at my 1 year mark, I still have it. It's like
Congrats.
it almost died when I was like living in the UK for a while, and the person that I had that was came by my house like forgot to water.
Oh no.
And I thought for a while that it had died, but no, still have it. It's gosh, is it? I think it's gonna be like 20 years old this year.
So I think I mentioned to you one time when we were talking, like how I find it a bit predatory if somebody comes swooping in for a romantic relationship at your lowest level. So let's say if you have a mental breakdown, or if you just divorced, or
Or
some
both.
some some real traumatic thing, right? Like that's like, my child died or whatever, like some traumatic, awful thing, right? And then someone swoops in, like now is the time to charm you, and now is the time to be a white knight. I find that to be a red flag, and you see it in churches sometimes, and you see it in like one of the things that happens is people go for church counseling at their lowest time in their life, and somebody takes advantage of it, like a deacon or pastor or something like that, and you're like, oh my gosh, like come on, like but even like just normal people being people, it makes me uncomfortable. It's just a not a particularly great sign. um and so maybe you can't stop humans from being that way. I mean, we all are, have our attractions and stuff like that, but to me, and maybe it's just where my boundaries are, my moral sensibilities are, to me it feels predatory. I don't know, like
It's very
particularly in
predatory.
the group.
It's very
Yeah.
predatory, and it's very in that sort of like that like groomy sort of aspect of it where like you know that like you're not allowed to date them now, but like let me get in their good graces now so that as soon as they are able to date, then
Yeah.
I'm the only person that is in their purview. Um
Yeah. Oof.
and it's gross and it's creepy, and I've seen it over and over and over again, and it's one of those things where it's like it's not quite like technically illegal, you know? It's like it's wrong, but people tolerate it. People tolerate it in these groups a lot. A lot of things are tolerated in these groups partially because oh well like that person has more clean time than me, so like they clean time is just like associated with like they just know shit, right?
Hmm.
Also a lot of people will lie about their clean time, like that's like a thing that happens like a lot.
Yeah,
um
unfortunately.
and but like it's also like treated as like somehow like you've been like sipping the magic sauce for that long, and therefore you have like that much wisdom that like is associated with your clean time. And so like people be like, oh well, like he has more clean time than me, so like I don't have any room to like second guess his
Right.
what he's doing, you know.
Can you share Aunt Jer's thing about the youth pastors?
Oh
That kind
gosh,
of,
yes.
that is exactly what I'm talking about. And I was a youth pastor at a certain point, and actually, so were you, oddly enough. But both of us have a sensibility of like that is wrong,
Yeah, yeah. It's that type of thing. It's absolutely that type of thing.
and that gross stuff right there, that has happened more times than I would like to admit. Like I have seen so many stories of this happening over and over again, usually with males,
Usually.
male pastors, but sometimes
It
females
also
too.
happens with the other, yes, exactly. It also happens the other way as well. I don't want to discount boys and young men who, or even not even young men, older men. It can happen to older men as well. I don't want to discount boys
It's
and young
very
men.
confusing to everybody when these things happen, besides, like it's just terrible. And so, yeah, that is a great example. That's kind of what I was getting at is like it's just really messed up because you know that that person's vulnerable.
Yeah, and and absolutely, you know that they're vulnerable. Like they wouldn't be there if they weren't vulnerable. It's not like, oh, like they've gone through like something awakening in their life and like they decided to join the church or whatever. Like there's we nobody comes into those rooms without having had some shit happen in our lives. That
Yeah.
is like we're at a bad point when we get there. I was in jail, like I said. The only reason why I went to my first meeting was I didn't have rec time and I wanted to stop staring at the same four walls. And they told me I was an addict and that I belonged there. And then 4 years later, I was basically recruiting people to their cult. Not even 4 years later, less than a year later, I was recruiting people. But it continued for 4 years.
Do you feel guilty about that? Because I feel guilty about some of the shit that I said as a youth pastor, to be honest, or didn't say. I had to play a game where I'm like, I don't really think gay is being a sin, but like I can't say what I actually think because I'll get thrown out of the church. Do you feel
I want to
I had to
put up.
I actually went back and apologized to some of my ex-youth kids, like, and I said, I am so sorry that I didn't say what I actually believed. And and they were happy that I reached out to them, and it was a couple of kids that came out as gay, and this is kind of a weird side note, but they confessed to me that they were, and I was very kind. I was like, God loves you no matter what, just so you know. He loves you for who you are. And you are not just one thing, you're many things, like kind of thing. Like, like you're not just your sexuality or what you're attracted to. You are you and
That's
all these
true.
other things. And
Yeah.
so I really straddled the line there, but I really wanted to
Feel
say,
guilty.
there's nothing wrong with you. That's what I really wanted to say. But I knew if I said it, I'd get kicked out. And I later, I still feel ashamed about it. I do, just because I straddled the line. I was kind, but I straddled the line.
Yeah. I I never took on any sponsees. And I think that if I had taken on sponsees, I would feel a lot more guilty. I always was just like, I don't have the time. I don't have the capacity for that. I don't have the responsibility, that kind of thing. So I don't necessarily feel, and I also like there's a lot of stuff that I feel pride in. Like our newsletter, like I feel pride in that like the quality of that newsletter like was improved while I was there. But like there is that like aspect of it where I feel guilty about like did that keep more people in the
Right.
organization? Did that, so it is like I do think that I feel a little bit of guilt. It's very mixed. And it's not to say no, I don't feel any guilt. Yeah, I don't want it to come off like that. But I want to be clear that I was lucky in that I don't think that I betrayed my morals as much as I easily could have in that organization.
Right. Yeah. I think like it's I think good things can happen in AA. And I don't think it's necessarily because of the program, but that people can be good to each other.
Yeah, see,
Um,
I was always like, I always, the entire time I was in it, constantly felt like I was getting in trouble for shit
mhm.
that was like such not shit. That it was like, I was like, this is fucking bullshit that I'm even getting in trouble for this the whole time. That
And what's
finally,
wild, sorry.
that like finally, I was just like, I'm fucking done with this. But I don't know, like definitely right away, I didn't feel any guilt whatsoever because I was just like so like done with it. I was just so I felt like they had taken so much of me that there's nothing left to take. So like what is there to feel guilty? You know what I mean? I
Well,
gave you everything that I had.
it kind of reminds me of church too. So every so often you'd run into somebody that had their testimony, and you're supposed to be like all moved by their testimony, and they're like, before I met God, I was this way, and then I met God, and then I changed, and I'm all angelic. And
Yeah.
like they tell these horrendous stories where you're like, oh my God, and then I almost murdered my own brother, and then I used drugs, and then I joined a motorcycle gang, and I beat this guy to the pulp and left. I don't know if he's dead
Went
or
through the shit.
alive, and they're saying all this horrible shit, and you're like, oh my God. And then I had 5 abortions, and then I had like, like they're like going through all this stuff that's like triggering to all the Christians. And then they're like, and now through God's grace, I am not ashamed, I'm not held by sin anymore, and oh my gosh. And you're like, oh my God. And then they go to you and they're like, oh my God, you have same-sex attraction, you're really bad. Like you are next to a child, bup up, and you are next to
Exactly.
a murderer. You're just the worst. And it's like, really?
Exactly. That's okay. Look, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all of our affairs, right? But also the thing is that it's not just alcoholics. Like I said, I was encouraged to have all of my family members. When I did my step 4, everybody was there. Like I had to have like my no, I didn't have to have, but like they wanted me to like have my family like drive in from like out of the area. But like also they wanted my family to sign up for Al-Anon. And they wanted me to like also be in Al-Anon meetings so that I was going to even more meetings. And if there was anybody in my life who had like any addiction to anything, then they needed to be in NA. Or if anybody in my life had like had any alcohol ever, they needed to be in AA. And my brother works at a wine tasting venue, so he obviously needs to be in AA. Even though
No
he was,
way.
I shit you not. Like this is, and he shouldn't be working in such an industry when he has a family history of alcoholism and like yeah, it's like the fact that he's working in an industry is in such an industry is proof that he's an alcoholic. And like just shit like that where it's just like this doesn't it's fucking bullshit.
and and then you have the extreme AA evangelists that go in and they go into Bevmo and they're like, y'all are alcoholics.
Basically,
Just kidding.
because
Kidding.
no, but like when I okay, so like remember when I like quit sugar, right? I remember like thinking like, oh, we're all sugar addicts. Like that was like because I went back to like my fucking brainwashing and shit. And like, yeah, yeah. So you would think that GeoSam that the anonymity would keep there from being any social stigma. We didn't have time to get to it today because like we were like past 8 o'clock. We were running overtime. But yeah, like that was a thing that was like really big in like 2 of the groups that I was in is that like we call it anonymous and like we were supposed to like leave what was outside of the group and leave what was in the group. But like there was a lot of overlap and there were a lot of like loopholes that we used to like bring that shit in. And it was this idea of like, oh, that there's anonymity and that we don't bring it outside of the group. But like you still stand up and say, like, hey, my name's Ella, I'm an alcoholic, like every fucking time. Like,
And the anonymity is kind of a joke because, like you said, like they'll tell you to tell your employer, I'm an alcoholic.
right, you're supposed to go and say and rat yourself out, and you're supposed to
You,
have on your phone everybody from the chapter. You're supposed to share all of your information with all of them. So then, like, if they're calling you, you have like it comes up because you don't know any of these people's names, so it says like Narcotics Anonymous, blah, 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 like whatever on your phone every time it rings. You know, the anonymity is fucking bullshit. Is fucking bullshit.
well, and then they call it a disease. So, if this is a disease, name what other disease you have to run up and you're forced to tell your employer, oh, by the way, I have AIDS.
What other disease is like announcing your disease a part of the treatment?
Good question.
That's it doesn't. So here so alcohol use disorder is a real disorder. This is a thing that like it took me years after like getting out of the 12 steps that I would say, oh well, alcoholism is a disease. Addiction is a disease. Because it had been drilled into me. Like, yes, alcohol use disorder, substance use disorder, like those are disorders. And there is like treatment for those, but like it's not a disease. It's not it's not what a
It's
disease is.
catching, guys. It's catching.
But that's but the way that they treat it though.
I know.
But if we've done our step 11, then we can save everybody else.
And then suddenly you're a guru.
Yes. As a result of these steps.
So I'm a much better fan of therapy and trusting people that actually have clinical time and have done the
Links in the
work.
description. Yes.
Yeah. And I personally, it also, besides some of the things that go awry in church, this reminds me of, it also reminds me of group therapy. So I was put in a group therapy group, and that did not work for me. You think I'm pretty social, so you think I would, and I run groups before in churches and things like that and work. So you think I'd be like down with that, but actually I found it so triggering. And I'll give an example. One time we were in group therapy, and I can be very uncomfortable around men that I think are a threat. Like, and this guy was a big guy, and he just felt threatening to me, and I don't know why, but like it just was a vibe.
Yeah.
When you get a vibe from someone, you're just like, I don't like this vibe you're throwing out. Anyway,
Yeah.
we were in a group, and he's like huffing and puffing. He's mad and he's angry, and then he's like, and my anxiety starts going through the roof. I mean, high, right below like going through a panic attack or just running out of the room. And he's like, ah, and then they're like, are you going to kill yourself or hurt someone else? He said, yes, both. And they took him out of the room. And I was like, I'm not coming back. That's it. I will see a therapist, but this group therapy thing, I'm out.
I mean, I'm glad that they took him out of the room. But like, yeah, that will be the type of thing that will happen inside of a 12-step meeting, but they won't necessarily take him out unless he like starts to physically make threats to people. And then they might take him out and then they'll be like, well, it was a good thing that he was here. He obviously needed.
Much to the pain of everybody else.
Like, who needed to not deal with that? Like, God
Yeah,
forbid, like
yeah.
we have any sympathy for the people who have to put up with that shit. But that's the way that it's treated. Yeah. It's there's so much more to it, but like we have run 20 minutes over time at this point.
Yeah, we've gone over. So this is a very spicy subject, and I understand it's a sensitive subject, and I understand that this has worked for some people. I also know that it hasn't worked for a lot of other people. And I would never want to deter someone from finding any help if it works for you. I'm not going to say don't do it. But for some of us, this stuff does not work. And so, having a conversation, it's one of those things like it's eggshells because you kind of wrestle with, should we talk about this? or not talk about this because it is a sensitive issue. It really is. And heaven forbid for me to like, turn anybody away from any help. But also, heaven forbid this be the only help that's offered to you.
Yes. Yes. And I think that that is the main issue that I see with it, is that this is, again, this is the only thing that is offered to people. This is mandated to people. And it's billed as it is the only option. Again, jails, institutions, and death was what we were taught. Sorry. But yeah, jails, institutions, and death. Those are our only other options. Either we work the steps or jails, institutions, and death. That's not the case. That's a lie. And that I think is the main message that I want to send with this stream, and I think with this series, is that is a lie. When they say jails, institutions, and death, that is a lie. If you want to work the steps and the steps are working for you, keep working the steps. But don't stay there while you're sacrificing people in your lives, relationships in your lives, advancements at work. I gave up any type of secondary education. And now here I am at 40 going back to school to get my degree that I was working on in my teen. I quit in my teens because of this organization. Here I am 20 years later, finally getting back to it. But that's what I'm saying, is don't let this organization take those things from you. Don't let this organization rob your future, rob your relationships, rob your happiness. If it's giving you those things, okay. I'm not going to argue with you on that. If it's doing good and you're not hurting anybody and your group isn't hurting anybody, I as I say with religions, I have not met the group yet that does not cause harm, but it does not mean they do not exist. If you say that you are in that group, I'm not going to argue with you on that. I don't know that group. But beware. But beware that these things are prevalent in these groups. That's all. Any further words, Spackle? I know we're like 20 minutes over time.
Triple amount of people die of alcoholism in the United States, and it's completely connected to alcoholism, but the death is different things like seizures and liver, going out, and stomach ulcer bleeding out, all these kind of things, right, that kill you. I just wanted to point out that we are not bombing. We are not bombing Jin Bean for that, or even like uh, doing anything to the alcohol industry really for that. And I'm not saying fentanyl is not a big deal, because it definitely is, but I would say that I would say alcohol is so downplayed, and I'm not gonna, like, again, I can have a drink once in a while as well, but it's so downplayed on the harm that it does. And it's one of those things where I'm like, wow. And right now we're watching the alcohol industry particularly target the weed industry and the hemp industry very much. What a joke.
Especially up by
What a
you.
joke that is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know that's sort of off topic, but yeah. And then the other thing is I think that there needs to just be more options. And there are more options that you have in the links below, but I think there needs to be more options for people. And there's certain almost like deserts where there's people that like all they have is AA. And that just sucks. And people don't have the money to travel to somewhere where they have something that's more substantial or whatever. And that's really hard. And so I guess my hope and wish list is that that there would be more options made available in more places, I guess.
In person as well, because I linked at least one that's like an online support group that is mostly online down in the description. But yeah, like that's a lot of people need something that's in person. That's right there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think I'm going to sign off there. Come back next week, guys, where we discuss 12-step groups a little bit more and their cult tactics. We are going to be going through the orange papers and different sections of that for at least the foreseeable future, but we might do a little bit of veering off of that topic here and there. So please come back and see us Tuesday evenings. Time zone math is gonna fuck with me, but you'll see the time zone in the description.
Say your time zone, it'll be easier.
6 Central? 6 to 8
6
Central.
Central. And it was for
4 to 6?
California time, Pacific Standard Time, and then it was at 7 Eastern.
Yeah. I'll try to get it right on, like, the actual banner thing next time.
Yeah.
I tried to do it this time, and I just suck at time zone math, but
I
anyway.
always struggle with Central and Mountain. That's my problem.
Me too. So people who are in the UK are like, "I've seen you do time zones before, Minnow. Like, you're really good at time zones." And ironically, that is one of the time zones that I've just been doing it for so long that one I know. But that's the only one I know. And even when
They're
it's
what,
literally like
approximately 6 or 8 hours ahead of us, one of the two.
yeah, for me it's literally just like, this is what I do. Here. This clock is not
I
obviously
have
the
time
right
zones
time,
on my phone.
but like, so here it's 8. So it's 1 something in the UK because it's directly across.
Oh, look at that. That's a good way to do it.
And I've done it so much with an actual clock that, like, my head, I can just do it. You know what I mean? I just
Right.
see the clock in my head, and I'm like, it's opposite. But when it's Florida or California, I'm like, I don't fucking know. And I'll fuck it up every
So
time.
I always know the East and West Coast, and I'm like, everything in the middle, I don't know.
It's funny. Well, anyway, come back next week. The time that I actually put in the description was the correct time. So go with, like, what the link says, not the banner. But I'll fix that shit anyway. All right. Thank you. Thank you all for your comments. Thank you, Aunt Jer. I really appreciate all of your thoughtful comments and your thoughtful questions. Thank you for coming, GeoSam. Come back next week. We've got more to come. And please join us, everybody. If you're watching this on the replay, come join us with the live. Come on. What are you doing?
Bye-bye.